Intel lets us know when they're coming out with their new CPUs. Valve decides that the Steam Deck needs more screen support, and Apple really hates Nvidia. Like, stupid bitter. Let's get into the hot news, everybody. I'm your Brett host. We're gonna be going over the hottest tech news I can find on the internet while you enjoy your breakfast this Wednesday, July 31st, 2024. And I think I finally found a room in this place that we're staying at that doesn't sound as bad as other places. There's a lot of reverb on that side, but kind of like right here, it's mostly okay, which is what a lot of people are hoping to see out of Lunar Lake, which Intel has finally given us a date for. They've just been saying Q3 for a very long time. We covered this over at Intel Tech Tour in Taiwan, and now we have a release date of September 3rd. This is apparently going to be debuted at IFA over in Germany at 9 a.m. Pacific time. So Lunar Lake should be launching, and based on the leaked benchmarks that we saw in yesterday's episode of Hot News, these CPUs look like they're going to perform pretty gosh dang well, especially if you go up to that Ultra 9 288V when it comes to the single core performance of what we're getting out of the new P cores as well as the revamped E cores. Intel has a lot going on that looks like they will be competitive, including the Battle Mage graphics that are going to be in Lunar Lake, especially considering Snapdragon just launched Lunar Lake as a response to the X Elite chips, as well as AMD's new Ryzen AI 300 series. I got it. We're still working on a review for that, so stay tuned to UFD Tech for those videos coming soon. But the thin and light notebook game is ratcheting up in intensity, and I'm excited to get my hands on a Lunar Lake laptop, even though my first love is desktop builds, which you should definitely be looking at today's video sponsor in case you're looking at your next desktop build. Silverstone has their Farah lineup of cases with their brand new Farah 514X. This is available in black and white, and it's a handsome mid-tower case that has everything you need to build a beautiful gaming PC or even a workstation. It features a fully perforated front mesh with 3 included 120mm addressable RGB fans on the front and 1 in the back, and it'll accommodate up to 2 360mm radiators and a graphics card up to 394mm in length, so you can get some chunky boys in there. And to make sure your card looks nice and level inside the Farah 514X, a nifty adjustable GPU support is included to prevent the card from sagging. Also has a USB-C port and an ARGB fan hub included so that you're up to date with the latest front I/O connections and can easily set up your system to control all of the fans and lighting to your exact preference. Currently I have this case back at the office. I'm excited to do a build in the white version of the 514X, which you can check out the Farah 514X for yourself at the link in the video description, which I know I've said this in several other Silverstone sponsorships, but they were part of the UFD Tech journey so heavily. They were in the first video that we did with one of their more mini ITX cases, and then now they're the first sponsor here on Hot News post 1 million. Silverstone's been a long-standing partner of UFD Tech. I'm glad to have them on board when it comes to promoting their Farah 514X cases, so check them out down below. But one of the things that I might not as easily recommend that you check out is Logitech in their forever mouse idea that their CEO has been discussing, which they want you to buy a mouse once and then pay them yearly or monthly regularly for software updates to that said mouse. So in an interview with The Verge, the CEO of Logitech talked about a forever mouse that they want to build akin to like a really nice watch. You don't throw your watch away, so why would you throw your mouse away besides your hand gunk and your Cheeto dust is getting all up on it. Anyway, saying that it would probably have a price tag of around $200 because that would limit it to the audience of professionals or enthusiasts, but that also part of that would have software ongoing support so that you buy it once and then Logitech can continue to get your revenue forever and ever. A growth sector you didn't even know you needed to be a part of, especially because the CEO of Logitech said that the average mouse or keyboard is only $26. So, you know, this is gonna appeal to a lot of people, but companies have to continue to grow or technically they're dying. So a long-lasting Logitech Forever mouse. Let me know if this interests you, if you would want to pick one up, and if it does cost that much, maybe Reece could save you a little bit of money so that you can save up for them nice little permanent clicker you're gonna pick up.
Yo, welcome back to UFD Deals, bringing the hottest tech deals out on the internet. It is Wednesday, my dudes. Hope you guys are having a good one because we've got some good deals for you today. Starting off with this glorious Stealth Edition cloth mousepad, with the large variant going for only $7.99, making it $6 off. But then next up, we have this MSI Mag A650BN, which is a 650 watt 80 plus bronze power supply. For if you're gaming on a budget, you can pick this up for only $49.99 with the included promo code, making it $20 off and cheaper than the 550 watt variant. And then lastly, we have the NZXT H5 Elite Compact Mid-Tower ATX case going for only $79.99, making it $60 off. And hey, with that, the deals are done. You can find these and more linked in the video description down below. But until next time, I'm gonna hand you off back to Brett for the rest of your hot news. Cheers.
Well, Reece, the people who picked up the Deck HD screen for the Steam Deck are getting a good deal in that Valve has now issued a patch allowing it to have full support on the Steam Deck. The Deck HD mod was something that gave you up to a 1200p resolution on the Steam Deck. This is kind of prior to the OLED launching that Deck HD released this. It's still been out. There's been some like quality concern issues with the Deck HD, especially when it comes to color accuracy, but it wasn't necessarily all that expensive in case you wanted to have a higher resolution screen. But Valve supporting this specifically directly in the Steam Deck shows that they're willing to work with the community. There could potentially be further mods that happen down the line. I mean, if we could get like a replaceable 120 hertz OLED screen, that would be amazing. Get it on par with some of the other Windows handhelds in terms of refresh rate. 90 hertz is good, but it could be better, which is what Nvidia thinks about their graphics cards. Yeah, you got the current Ada Lovelace Grace Hopper crap, but Blackwell, that's gonna be the better one. And there are now engineering samples going out, with Jensen, the CEO of Nvidia, saying that they're shipping out engineering samples this week. And it's probably gonna be one of Nvidia's biggest architectural launches in their history, especially in terms of just gross profit. Not necessarily for gaming. Who knows if the RTX 50 series is gonna be that big of an upgrade and at a price point that's gonna make it so that everybody wants to adopt them in their gaming systems. But definitely in the AI sector, they're gonna earn so much money. But while Nvidia is launching engineering samples of their stuff, AMD's been coming out with newer versions of old things like the XT Ryzen 5000 CPUs that are supposed to be supported on AM4. There were rumors that were coming out saying that the 5900 XT and the 5800 XT got delayed with the rest of the Ryzen 9000 chips because they were supposed to launch today, all of them together in one big happy harmonious Ryzen family. So when the Ryzen 5 and 7 got delayed till next week and the Ryzen 9s got delayed till the week after, some retailers and reporters were saying that these new Ryzen 5000 chips got delayed as well, and AMD has categorically come out and said, no, that's not true. The 5800 XT and the 5900 XT should be available today. There has been no change to the sales embargo on the 5000 XT CPUs. You should be able to pick them up in case you want them. And Apple is picking up where they left off with their grudge against Nvidia. This has been something that's been long-standing for decades. Apple hates Nvidia's guts. At least that's the way it seems from the outside, especially with all of the dealings that there's been reports of internal meetings that have happened between Steve Jobs and Jensen that just put them on bad terms moving forward. And so at every opportunity, Apple has chosen not to really work with Nvidia in their latter parts of the years. A lot of their GPU support when it came to their Mac Pros were AMD GPUs when Nvidia could have potentially worked just as well. And now that they're coming out with their own AI, Apple talked about how a lot of their large language model cloud processing was going to be done specifically on Apple Silicon, but now also with their white paper coming out on how they trained their models, turns out they didn't use a lick of Nvidia GPUs, which is actually really remarkable in this day and age. Instead, they opted to use Google's Tensor processing unit, something that Google has had around for quite some time, but it was the TPU V4 chips that Apple used, having 8,192 of them to actually train the 6.4 billion parameter model that they're using for their LLM. So this is a big deal that Apple not only is training their LLM, they're doing it through Google, avoiding Nvidia entirely, which appears to be going against every trend in the industry so far. And Apple's been like remarkably transparent on how they're doing their LLM, their AI training, how the hardware works. They've been releasing white papers. It's actually refreshing to see a company not buy into the AI hype as much as most other companies, which I know gonna get comments for just praising Apple even in the slightest, but I have I felt like their approach to AI has not just come across as rushed or as desperate, but it actually comes across as methodical, planned out, maybe probably not going to be implemented in the best of ways, but at the same time, they're doing it in a way where they control everything. They're being clear about the purpose, and they're not just trying to sell us some crypto garbage rebranded as AI as the new innovation. So that's my Apple shilling of the day, which I'll respond to the comments about that tomorrow. Let's respond to yesterday's episode of Hot News Comments, which I said we will try to keep it happy or positive. That's what I'm going for here. And we're starting off with Eggplant saying, as a member of my company's IT infrastructure team, thank you for the heads up on the Windows update. Sent it to my boss and he was able to block it before it caused any problems. Hey, positivity starting out, thank you. And then 3D Foos saying, blanket forts have the best audio. You should try that for the next video. There are not enough blankets here for me to be able to do that. Very limited in the blanket selection as well as pillow selection. So we're just having to deal with unoptimized room audio. Sorry, friends. But let's get into no negativity, but less positive, with Granite saying, no, degraded CPUs crash. They don't perform less, they just crash. That's not exactly true. They're crashing at a certain voltage, at a certain operating situation. If you actually scale them down, the crashing typically in most scenarios stops. It's very similar to what you see with a long-lasting overclocked chip. They will stop being able to perform at the peak overclock that you had it at for however many first years you were running it at, and you have to start lowering the clock frequency. You have to keep the voltage high in order to run it at that clock frequency, and if you drop the voltage, you have to drop the frequency quite a bit. But there is a point where you can get stability at a lower voltage. So it's not that they just crash. That is true if you try to keep them level, if you try to keep them where they're at. But if you modify them to go even lower, you can tune the performance down and they will be stable at that point. For especially in this instance that we're talking about with Intel's 13th or 14th gen chips, you can degrade them to the point in the BIOS that they are stable. You can remove performance in order to get stability, which has been the recommended setting in order to move forward with all of this. Yes, it is worse. Yes, it is not what Intel promised. Yes, this is all bad. But at the same time, it is not as if they are without value. It's not as if they're dead chips. That's something completely different. They can die from the increased voltage, but that's typically not where we're at. And then we got Chick saying, only comment on Lunar Lake. People won't rush into them regardless of the performance if the current crisis isn't handled properly. I'm just gonna disagree with that slightly, simply because they're vastly different market segments. The amount of people who are picking up thin and lights who also happen to be Uber enthusiasts who are firmly aware of 13th and 14th gen issues, but then on top of that are also following the news cycle and then super duper care about it. The Venn diagram of that overlap isn't as big to impact Intel's sales as I think we all kind of want it to be, right? Like it's that idea of the internet loves AMD, and if you say negative things about AMD, you get disliked. The ratio it's bad. It's difficult to deal with as a content creator. But when you look at the actual market share, AMD's getting destroyed. They are not actually mattering in the real world market as much as they matter online. And I feel like we're dealing with that with Intel here. The stuff that Intel's doing about their Raptor Lake chips is, in my opinion, really bad. And it puts them in a bad situation. But this is like an enthusiast level discussion that we're having, and normal people aren't aware of that. And the amount of thin and lights that get sold to businesses and through the OEM channels and just picked up at Best Buy. I was at Best Buy today where somebody asked a Best Buy employee, so are the Intel Evo laptops any good? And the Best Buy employee responded, oh, Evo doesn't even mean anything. That's just like a marketing sticker. And on one hand, that's true, but also that's not like the question the guy was asking. Then in response to the Best Buy employee, the guy went, oh yeah, I see it's a Lenovo laptop. So like, those are the people who are gonna buy Lunar Lake, right? I'm excited as an enthusiast about the performance level of Lunar Lake. People who buy Lunar Lake aren't like, it's just gonna be the latest thing out on the market and Intel's gonna have plenty of sales. And then Wolreb saying, I love that Reece is starting to sound more South African as time goes on. He just slipped right back into it. And then Electrino saying, tried AFMF2 already, and while it's very tangibly better than 1, it's still nowhere near lossless scaling, at least in terms of fluidity and quality. I'm glad to hear all of the reports of everybody who's trying Fluid Motion Frames 2 and seeing results that they like, even if it's not perfect yet. It's good to see that AMD's working on it. And then Karsten saying, speaking of Sapphire, I think we all deserve more variety when it comes to aesthetics on PC components. I'm so tired of everything being black, white, or gray. Seriously vomit material after 2 decades of bland looking 2-color monotone everything. I want a pink motherboard PCB or blue one or red or a cool purple like they made in the old days. Sad enough you have to pay more for something that just be white. Yeah, I get you. That's why I bring it up. We're on the same page, celebrating Sapphire for that kind of stuff. We have a PC build coming up where we bought a kitty GPU. It's a Supremo Cat graphics card, and it's pink and it's got cats all over it. That's the kind of stuff that just gets me enthused about computers. I like the variety. I want to see it happen, and so when I see Sapphire releasing stuff, props to them. I want to see more of that move forward, and so I think we're on the same page. But a lot of people weren't on the same page with me when it came to the EK discussion that we had yesterday. I picked out Crackling Ice's comment saying, I thought it was the other way around, that the US side was trying to do things right, but the main company was forcing the US side to do garbage. And I think the problem was, I wasn't clear enough in what I was trying to communicate in terms of the original comment. The original comment was like, there's not gonna be an EK around to make water blocks. And from watching Steve's report over on Gamers Nexus, I rewatched both videos to like see, was I missing anything for people to be like, no, the Slovenia department is the one that's in trouble. And the truth is, based on going back and watching and based on my memory in the first place, EK is not in danger of dying as far as we know. There's a lot of inferences that can be made based on how they've handled EK Fluid Gaming here in the States. EK Fluid Gaming in the States is provably in trouble based on employee reports, financial documents, government documents that are available. EK Water Blocks in Slovenia is inferred to be in trouble based on everything that's happening in the States, but not as much publicly being made known. Obviously, their business practices are making it so it looks like things are bad, but I think my point was, what we know is bad is the US side. The Slovenian side isn't the part that like Steve had a lot of data on to actually say for certain that things are really bad and that they're doing this. Like there's a lot of inference that happens based on all of that. And so that's all I was trying to communicate. And I wasn't trying to say that EK Slovenia is like in a good spot, but I don't think that we have enough data to say that EK's dead at this point. I think there's just bad management decisions and they could just be making really bad US management decisions, because as some of the stuff Steve highlights in the video, like they particularly didn't like Americans in certain regards, and there was a lot of hostile work culture that potentially didn't carry over from Slovenia to the United States. And maybe it has nothing to do with the fact that EK is actually in trouble, and it has everything to do with the fact that they thought EK Fluid Gaming was lesser than them and they wanted to make things difficult for their company that they started. It doesn't make sense in a lot of different ways, but it is an explanation, right? Like there's a lot of inference that has to happen for us to think we know what's going on with EK Slovenia, because there's not as much publicly available based on what Steve reported on. That's all I was trying to say. Not that EK is good, but that EK America is the one where like the struggles are documented. And I'm done documenting hot news for today. We'll be back with more of the hottest tech news tomorrow for you guys. Bye.